Calls are growing to ban smacking in Britain after a new scientific study appeared to show it has no benefits and can make children more aggressive and antisocial. The research was published in The Lancet, and it found that among under 16s, the more they'd been smacked, the worse their behaviour. In England, parents can still legally use force against children if it's reasonable punishment. I'm joined now by Simon Calvert, who's spokesman from the BeReasonable campaign, which believes parents' rights to choose how to discipline their children should be protected. Simon, thanks for joining us. What do you make of this research by The Lancet?
Well, I mean, let's just be clear that, different academics have different points of view on this. And the academics who've written this paper, they're entitled to their point of view, but we know that about every 6 months to a year, they'll produce a new paper calling for smacking to be banned. So they're coming at it from a very particular position. What's interesting to me, actually, in the preamble to this particular paper is that they express kind of frustration that parents are, in their phrase, not receiving or not believing the message that they keep pumping out. And there's a reason for that, and that's because parents know it's not true. I mean, parents know that, that if they love their kids and if they use a range of different ways of just trying to help them to grow up to be, nice people and productive members of society or whatever, a lot of those parents know that occasionally a smack on the back of the hand of a toddler, a tap on the bum, is the right thing to do for their kids in that particular situation. And so they know that it can have a positive impact. People who grew up with loving parents who occasionally smacked them, they know that their parents had their best interests at heart and it didn't do them any harm. And I think what a lot of people especially know instinctively is that if you criminalise something so trivial, you're going to wreck a lot of innocent families and you're going to distract the child protection services from doing their proper job.
And also, so how do you criminalise it, though? Because what happens, a 6-7-year-old goes into the classroom and tells teacher, my mum smacked me on the legs last night. What does the teacher then pick up the phone and call the police, and the police are sent round? Is that really what opponents of using smacking want?
Apparently so, because when the Scottish government brought in its smacking ban, one of the first things they did was produce a leaflet which said, if you see a parent smacking a child, it says, dial 999 and report a crime in progress. Or you can report anonymously to Crime Stoppers. I mean, that sort of thing is just chilling. And really, what a colossal waste of police time, and how terrifying for, a mum to have the police arrive on her door just because, she's tapped little Tommy on the bum.
Yeah, and what is reasonable force? I mean, it's because currently we still can use reasonable force in England. Wales are going to outlaw it next year. We're one of 4 countries in Europe which still use reasonable punishment. What would you define a reasonable force as, Simon?
The CPS guidance on this has been around for years, and it's very clear. Anything that a parent does which leaves anything more than transient reddening of the skin is already criminal. So if you bruise a child, if you mark a child, you're committing an offence. And I think most people would think, that's the right place to draw the line. And so by definition, if we remove that reasonable chastisement defence, the only thing we're criminalising is the reasonable, the most mild, the most trivial thing that a parent might do. That's the thing that will be forced into the firing line for the police and prosecutors.
My mother used to whack me, my brother and my 2 sisters with a slipper. We'd be put over her knee, and she'd do it quite hard, actually. Would that be reasonable force today, or would that not pass the test?
No, it wouldn't. And I think most people, would think rightly so. And just to come back to the point about what they do in the rest of Europe about this. Yeah. I mean, we often get told, they banned it in all these countries and, there weren't loads of people prosecuted. Well, the reason is if you look at the detail of those laws and how they're enforced, in most of those countries, they haven't made it a criminal offence. They have different legal systems. They have civil codes, criminal codes. It's a completely different approach. Whereas here in the UK, what they want, what they've said they want, what they've done in Wales and Scotland is they've made trivial smacks a criminal offence. And then you have the weird spectacle of some of the politicians who back the ban saying, we don't want to see parents prosecuted for trivial smacks. Well, why did you vote for the ban? Because that's what you've instructed the police to do through the law. If you wanted to just, signal your virtue, use Twitter, don't use the criminal law.
Yeah, it's interesting that the National Society for Prevention of Cruelty to Children are using the expression assault. It cannot be right, they say, that in 2021 children are the only group in society that it's legally acceptable to assault in England. How is smacking a child on the legs or on the hand an assault?
Well, of course, again, people know it's not. But if you change the law in this way, you are deeming it to be an assault for the purposes of criminal law. And that kind of language is profoundly insulting to thousands and thousands of ordinary, decent parents who love their kids. They do their very best with them, often under great pressure. They talk to them. They are warm with them. They're affectionate with them. They try and teach them right from wrong. They try and teach them values. They do all sorts of things, positive and negative, to try and excuse me, to try and, reinforce good behaviour in their kids. And those parents, some of them occasionally decide, you know what, this reaches a threshold where I think a tap on the back of the legs is going to be necessary for my kid. And they do it, and it works. And, that's just good parenting. Why in the world would you want to make that criminal?
Do you smack I don't know how old your children are, Simon. Do you smack them, or have you smacked them?
My kids are adults, and I suspect if they want your listeners to know whether or not I smacked them as a kid, it's really for them to come on your show and speak for themselves. But I certainly, I defend the freedom of parents to decide if they want to tap a toddler on the bum. You don't have to do it. Many parents don't need to do it. Many parents don't want to do it. That's absolutely a matter for them. But we shouldn't be criminalising parents. You just can't get away from the reality of what they're calling for. Tell me you don't agree with smacking, that's fine. Tell me you don't think it works, that's fine. Tell me that here's another method that you think I should use, that's all fine. But don't use the criminal law to reinforce your opinions about parenting. That's oppressive, and it's wrong, and it'll damage decent families, and it will distract the child protection authorities from the very difficult task of identifying genuinely abused and neglected kids, because they'll be wasting time following up decent families who've done nothing wrong other than a little smack on the bum.
All right, that's Simon Calvert. He's a spokesman from the BeReasonable campaign, which argues parents should have the right to choose how to discipline their children. And that research, of course, in The Lancet was published by University College London. Thanks for joining us.